Can your employees really speak freely? This article is by James Dietrich and Ethan Burrows. Presentation will be by Carolyn Holt-Bayless. Many companies are unsuccessful in attempts to get employees to speak freely. Paul Warner of DecisionWise surveyed over 100,000 employees, showing that 34% are afraid to share their voice. This fear of speaking up is detrimental to companies. Employees either fear retaliation for speaking openly or believe the efforts will be ineffective. Leaders try to make it easier for employees to share ideas and concern, but usually they end up doing the opposite. The focus for many of these efforts is on improving communication in the hierarchy of the company. However, leaders and managers usually fall short of success. Regardless of good intentions, there are two problems that keep employees from freely speaking up. The first is a fear of consequences for speaking up, which could occur in various ways, such as low performance ratings, isolation, lost promotion, embarrassment, and even firing. The second is a sense of futility, which is reflected in the belief that saying something won't make a difference. The authors state that leaders use a variety of tools to get people to speak up, like climate surveys and all staff feedback sections. In studies that the authors did, they stated that when employees do speak freely about concerns, employee retention goes up and increases work performance. In one of the studies that they did in the financial service firms, reported that employees speaking up more resulted significantly better financial and operational results in the company. So according to the authors, when people stay quiet, mistakes and bad decisions continue, and many innovative ideas never see the light. There are three fear factors of why employees do not speak up. The first one is anonymous feedback, which could be suggestion boxes, whistleblowing, or an ombudsman. And for these, usually they want to know who the employee is that states that. The second one is open door policy. And the problem with the open door policy is the employees have to initiate the conversation. And that is still frightening to the employees, so they're not going to do that. The third fear is mixed signals, and that's when an employee will clam up when they have different signals coming from the employers. An example of a mixed signal would be a good doctor giving treatment to patients, and patients are uncomfortable with the doctor, and therefore they don't provide the information to the doctor that the doctor needs for all the treatment. And the problem is that the doctor is standing above the patient and not aware of intimidation that they have on the doctor. So once the doctor understood that he was giving mixed signals, he turned around and instead of being over them in their bed talking to them, he decided to sit next to them and talk to them. Therefore, the signals have changed, and the patient feels more comfortable with talking with the doctor. Futility factors is the biggest reason for withholding ideas and concerns, not fear factors. The employees believe that managers wouldn't do anything above the issue anyways. One futility factor is failing to model free expression. When a leader does not voice the concern, employees notice and stay silent. Based upon research, senior people couldn't be trusted to talk about the proverbial elephant in the room, in this case, top managers' negative behavior. So why would others in the organization conclude that voicing concerns is worth their time? Another futility factor is being unclear about the input. Most leaders have agendas and want responses to reflect those agendas. Many employers go through the motions of listening to ideas with no intention of following up. The employer also asks for single best idea on surveys or invites people to speak up in meetings, but the input does not meet the company's needs if the feedback doesn't match the employer's agenda. The final futility factor is providing no resources to address issues, meaning that collecting data on an issue and not assigning employees to analyze the data. On this cartoon, no resources, no results. It states, this is a major project of utmost importance, but it has no budget, no guidelines, no support staff, and it's due in 15 minutes. At last, here's your chance to really impress everyone. And this cartoon is by Randy Glassberg. There are several best practices that you can do to improve employees to speak out and help your company. The first one is casual feedback, which is face-to-face a planning session or a brainstorming session to make the employees feel important about their input. Another is transparent. Being transparent reduces the anxiety and increases the participation for the employee. The third one is reach out. And the management needs to seek new people for advice and their input instead of always being around the network people that they're used to being with. They need to branch out to other people in their companies and seek new ones for different advices. The fourth one is soft power cues, and that's when you're playing down power when you're meeting with the employees. And that's very important because the employees need to feel important and need to feel an integral part of conversations and success in the company. Avoiding sending mixed messages is another best practice. One way to lower the trust level between employer and employee relationships is to send mixed messages about where the employee stands in the company. The sixth best practice is to be the example. The employee makes a decision to bring an issue to the manager depending on how likely the manager is to represent the employee's interests to the leaders above. When managers advocate for employees, either in front of them or behind closed doors, the employees feel inspired and unafraid to speak up. The last best practice is closing the loop. When the author surveyed more than 3,500 employees and found that if bosses closed the loop, employees spoke up 19% more frequently. The most important part of closing the loop is to have strict timelines for collecting, evaluating, and implementing the ideas from employees. In conclusion, getting employees to speak up with ideas will always be a challenge. Rather than remain silent, leaders and managers of companies need to convince employees to make decisions and speak up because they have valuable opinions and information that can be used to make improvements. Tim McClure, which is a professional speaker and brand and leadership consultant, noted, "The biggest concern for any organization should be when their most passionate people become quiet. The reason for the passionate employee to become quiet is that there is some type of break of trust in leadership and negative energy in the organization. Employers need to use the best practices to clear some obstacles out of the way for employees to speak up. All companies need to take steps to assure employees that it is safe and worthwhile to contribute, no matter the placement in the hierarchy of the company." Employers and employees need to understand Winston Churchill's famous quote, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen."